Welcome back, everyone. Today, what I'd like to do is I'd like to talk about renting versus buying. Most people talk about renting versus buying as if one choice is responsible and the other one is a mistake. Renting is throwing money away. Buying means you've made it. But the framing misses what's actually going on. And that's what I'd like to talk about today. Rent versus buy isn't really about housing. It's about how hard it is to change direction once you commit. And once you see that, the whole debate shifts. Before we even talk about housing, there is a concept you need to understand. It's one of the most important ideas in engineering, decision making, and system design. It is a concept called reversibility. Reversibility describes how easy it is to undo a decision once you've made it. Some decisions are easy to reverse. If you make a mistake, you adjust, you recover, and then you move on. Other decisions are hard to reverse. Once you commit, you live with the consequences for a very long time, even if new information shows up later. In engineering, we treat those type of decisions very differently. We move fast on reversible decisions and we slow down dramatically on irreversible ones. It's not because we're afraid, but because mistakes behave differently depending on whether you can undo them. Think about a software. Changing a line of code is reversible. If it breaks, you roll it back. Pouring concrete is not. Once it sets, every mistake becomes permanent. Same intelligence, same engineer, completely different rules. The difference is reversibility. Here is the principle that follows from this. Reversible decisions should be made quickly and adjusted later. Irreversible decisions should be made slowly and deliberately. Most people don't get into trouble because they choose the wrong option. They get in trouble because they treat irreversible decisions as if they were easy to undo. I think you know where I'm headed now. Buying a home is not just a financial decision. It is one of the most irreversible decisions most people ever make. Not emotionally, structurally. And yet, people are encouraged to rush into it, using the same thinking that apply to phone upgrade or a short-term lease. And that mismatch is where the problems begin. Why this decision feels different? This decision feels heavier than others because it changes the structure of your life. Most choices sit at the edges of the system. You can adjust them without much friction. Buying a home doesn't. It tightly connects your income, your location, your savings, and your future flexibility. When one of those changes, the rest feel it. That's not emotion, that's coupling. Think of your life like a road network. Renting is driving on city streets. You move slower, you hit more stoplights, but you can turn easily. Buying a home is getting on the highway. It is efficient. You cover ground faster, but exits are far apart and turning around it can be expensive. Neither is better. The mistake is getting on the highway before you're confident about the destination. And that is the real risk. Some decisions are easy to undo. Some are hard to undo. That's not about courage or maturity. It's a design property of the decision. Buying a home adds inertia. It adds friction. And it reduces the degrees of freedom you have. That can be a strength, but only when the system is aligned. Timing matters more than the intent. Most people ask questions like, is renting just throwing money away? Will buying build equity over time? What if prices keep going up? What if I wait too long? What did other people my age do? These questions aren't stupid. They're just aimed at the wrong layer of the problem. They focus on outcomes. They don't focus on behavior under change. Once you look at this as a system problem, the question change. Instead of, will this work out financially? Perhaps the better question becomes, what happens if my assumptions are wrong? Instead of asking the question, is this a good long-term investment? Ask yourself, can I stay on this path if the conditions change? Instead of, what's the average return? This is something that's very common. Ask, what does failure look like and how hard is to recover? Then instead of, am I wasting time renting? Ask yourself, what flexibility am I buying and why might I need it? These questions don't give you an answer. What they do is they give you clarity. Most people think in averages: average income, average appreciation, average life path. But decisions that are hard to undo don't fail in the average case. They fail when you lose flexibility, when timing turns against you, or life forces a change. Systems don't break when anything goes right. They break when stress shows up. That's why reversibility matters. Here is a distinction that most advice skip. Buying too early can destabilize the system. It can trap you, force bad moves, or limit choices when you need them the most. Renting too long usually just limits the upside. You move slower, you build less equity. Both of them have costs, let's not kid each other, but they're not the same kind of cost. One threatens stability, the other one affects efficiency. People who design systems protect stability first. Optimization only matters once the system cannot break, or you minimize the ability for the system to break. And renting isn't indecision. It's staying on the city streets on purpose. It keeps exits closed. It lowers the cost of mistakes. It allows fast course correction. The flexibility has a real value when important variables in your life are still moving. Seeing that clearly removes a lot of unnecessary pressure. There is a difference between waiting and drifting. Drifting sounds like, I'll see what happens. An intentional pause sounds like, if my job stays stable for 2 years, I commit. If my location stays fixed, I commit. If neither happens, I keep my flexibility. The difference isn't confidence. It's having very clear triggers. And that's control logic. It's not fear. Now let's be honest on the other side. When your life system is stable, buying early can be a very strong move. It puts you in the highway. And once you're on the highway and you know where you're going, then that makes sense because it reduces noise. It locks in key inputs and lets time do the work. Buying early works when exits are unlikely and the stability is already there. That is not luck, that is alignment. This way of thinking doesn't tell you what to choose. It gives you something more useful. It explains why advice sounds contradictory, why this decision feels heavier than others, and why timing matters more than spreadsheets. You stop arguing about rent versus buy, and you start understanding what kind of system you're running. That is the value. When your life has high uncertainty, flexibility absorbs shock. When your life has low uncertainty, then commitment creates efficiency. Problems happen when those things are reversed. Rent versus buy isn't a test of discipline or a test of intelligence. It is a question of structure and timing. Once you see it that way, the noise drops, the guilt fades, and the decisions become clearer. and also quieter. That clarity is the real win. Thank you for your attention and your time today. If this helped you see the problem differently, then please consider staying with the channel. Until next time, be well.